Free transfers can be very, very useful if you're a club going from the Championship up into the Premier League. That would be because you've got less PSR space, which means you can spend less on fees and you can spend less on wages, and that effectively means that free transfers are an easy way of getting proven talent into your squad, especially if they are of the right standard. If they're not of the right standard, you've made a mistake. But if they are of the right standard, you've got someone that you can just like drag and drop into your squad. Brilliant. You've improved like that. And Daniel Farke may have been making some moves already that are pushing us very much in the right direction at the moment, because Leeds United have contacted a Premier League defender for a free transfer. Now, in this video, I'm going to go through who it is, if it could work, who we're competing with for them, some of my concerns around it, and whether or not we should make this move. But before I dive headfirst into all of that, I'm just going to again plug the Leeds Creator Cup, the charity match. Link down below to the website. If you get your tickets before the 31st of May, you'll be entered into a raffle to win a customized shirt that is one of the Leeds Creator Cup ones. Your name and number on the back, but there is going to be a grand total of something like 60 of these shirts made overall. They're going to be pretty damn rare. They look pretty damn nice. And yeah, it's the only way that you're realistically going to get a hold of them. Anyway, let's hop into it. Who the player is probably the reason you clicked on this, unless you got one of the specific titles. Fun fact, YouTube lets me send different titles to different people now, which is quite interesting. So if you see different titles, that's why. But it is Vladimir Coufal. Leeds United, according to Ben Jacobs, have actively reached out to Coufal now and said, would you be interested in moving to Leeds United, taking your career over in that direction and seeing how it goes? And there's a pretty long conversation there. Coufal is a fullback that currently plays for West Ham, and I will be completely honest with you, I'm not the most excited by this, but I'm going to get into why that is going forwards. In terms of why they could work, there's a few decent reasons. Vladimir Coufal has played a hell of a lot of football. The guy is 32 years old at the moment, bordering on 33. He will be there by the start of next season. And he's one of those sort of stodgy defensive players. He's a right back primarily, but he's someone that will put a lot of time and effort into the defensive side of his game. He's sort of the anti-Bogle, if that makes sense. That's roughly where I'm sort of putting him in terms of levels. Plays a little bit at left midfield as well, played a little bit at wing back. He's dropped in at centre back. He's done all kinds of bits and bobs for West Ham this season, but he's not done many bits and bobs for West Ham this season. So he's played 20 matches, but he's only got 958 minutes, which is saying that he's not really starting at all. He's coming off the bench a hell of a lot. Basically, we'd be signing a lot of experience, but not the highest level of quality, if all of that makes sense. In terms of competing clubs who Leeds United would be fighting against to sign this guy, Ben Jacobs' report also mentioned that Everton have a little bit of interest in him. They've also reached out and said, would you fancy continuing with us? So it's not the worst of conversations to be in. It's Leeds or it's Everton. And it puts us in reasonably good standing because, I mean, yes, they'll be moving into their new shiny stadium. But at the end of the day, I feel like Leeds' ownership is probably richer than Everton's ownership. It gets a little bit complicated if you include the Lowies and all that kind of stuff. But this is where I get a little bit confused, complicated, baffled, because I've got a few little concerns around potentially signing Coufal. My first of which is the fact that West Ham are not a team that are in the best of places right now. West Ham are a team that are hovering in, I think, currently 15th, with Scum and Spurs below them, and then it's the relegated teams, which says that the players in that squad aren't going to be the best in the league, unless you're putting it all down to the system, but you can't necessarily do that unless you've seen the team quite a lot. And in addition to that, he's not even starting within that side. So he's currently a bench player for a side that is 15th place in the league, and they are willingly releasing him from his contract, or at least not actively fighting to get him back. Because I feel like Coufal, if he had the opportunity, would be like, no, you know what? I might stick around at West Ham. So the concern here is if a club that is already in the Premier League is saying that he's not good enough and they are barely scraping to hang on, because let's be honest, if Ipswich, Leicester, Southampton were competitive, Scum, Spurs, West Ham, that's the one, would be dragged into that relegation battle because they would be taking points off other clubs. So the concern here is if he's not good enough for West Ham, why do we think he's going to be good enough for us? So it's spooky. In terms of where he'd fit in, for me, he is very, very clearly a secondary option. He's a sort of, you play Bogle first, and then if it comes to it, if you need to, for example, go to 5 at the back, Soufal can sit in as a centre-back for a little bit. Or if Bogle is injured and you maybe need to play slightly more solid, then you go for Soufal. Or if, for example, Sam Byram doesn't sign a contract, because as we learned with the retained list, Byram and Firpo are both in conversations at the moment to have their contracts extended, but it's not been confirmed in either direction. That's where he'd fit for me. But then you've got the further concern of if you're Soufal and you're looking at the Leeds side and you're like, well, I'm probably not getting a start over Jayden Bogle. So why would I go from a place I'm not starting to somewhere else I'm not starting? Maybe you want to go to Everton instead because you may be more likely to get minutes there. But then again, they've got fairly decent wing-backs as well. I say fairly decent. It's Everton, so fairly decent for Everton. But I still don't think Soufal starts there. So it all gets very, very confusing. I think if Soufal does come, he's a bench option, in my opinion. And that is where it gets a little bit complicated around would I sign them? And for me, it's a question around Byram and Firpo. If we are able to sign one or both of Byram and Firpo, probably I wouldn't go for Soufal. Because if I want to go for someone to potentially upgrade over Byram, I probably want to splash out and get someone that is known and decent. So Soufal has been on the bench a hell of a lot this season, and that's probably for a reason. And in the latter half of the season, I'll have a quick look at these games played, for example. Started against Scum, fair enough. Off the bench against West Ham on the 4th of May, off the bench against Brighton on the 26th of April, played a full match against Southampton, fair enough. They drew against Southampton, that's not great. Came off the bench against Liverpool. So in matches against Spurs and Brighton and Liverpool, he's not starting, which says that against that upper half of the table, he's not necessarily trusted. So it's complicated for me. If we need depth, then yes. But if we're looking for someone to start for us in the Premier League, I think no. And I do personally think that Jayden Bogle is the place that I would go for a Premier League starter at right back, because I feel like he fits really nicely into the system, and our system accounts for him bombing on a little bit more effectively. We've got a system in which Bogle goes, Tanaka drops, or Ampadu drops, or Gruev drops, or whoever is playing in that right-hand side midfield berth drops in a little bit to cover. So I think it'll probably work out playing Bogle, and in that case, I wouldn't go with Soufal unless you can sign someone. Well, it wouldn't be Soufal anyway, but I would go with Bogle unless you can sign someone that equally does that attacking job. Because I think the system is very reliant on the fullbacks doing well. And I don't know if Soufal is system built enough for it, if that all makes sense. But either way, that's just what I think. So let me know what you think down in the comments below, unless you're in the live stream, in which case do it in the chat. I'm not ending the stream here, I'm just ending the recording here. If you enjoyed the video or stream, pop a like on it. Subscribe if you're not yet. I crossed over 6,000 on Sunday, so that was very, very nice. Or become a channel member, where you get a bunch of videos early. Not this one, because this is being filmed on a live stream anyway, but a bunch of them. And yeah, also get tickets for the charity match down below. Very, very accessible. Massively appreciated. Thank you. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. I will see you later. Ta-ra.